Hello everyone, my name is Caleb Ricks, and this is my research project proposal titled Teaching Teachers: How Current California Teacher Preparation Programs Are Effectively Instilling Multicultural Instructional Practices in Their Teacher Candidates. In terms of the research topic, I am looking at the current multicultural curriculum taught within California teacher preparation programs after the year 2016. So when I was reviewing the literature, I saw that there was a pretty prevalent gap after the year 2016. There is an abundance of research regarding how preparation programs instilled multicultural practices up until 2016, but after that it just drops off. And this is significant because, as many of us know, we had to pass the CalTPA 2.0. And within the CalTPA 2.0, we were explicitly assessed on our ability to tie our academic content that we were teaching to the cultural backgrounds of our students. So because there's this gap in the research, we don't know whether or not the CalTPA 2.0 accurately assesses multicultural instructional practices of the candidates, or if the preparation program's curriculum that is geared towards the completion of the CalTPA 2.0 instills multicultural practices within teacher candidates. And additionally, I wanted to look at the CalTPA 2.0's role in fostering these multicultural practices, and basically, does it truly assess candidates' abilities to instruct through a multicultural lens? Chapter 1, for the introduction, I was passionate about this project because a lot of the research in the field, and this is something that we've discussed throughout our courses, reveals that there is a lack of teacher preparation throughout the state and throughout the country. According to Rubenstein and Avila, 62% of new teachers say that they are unprepared to teach from a multicultural framework within the classroom, which is interesting considering that 96% of candidates who take the CalTPA 2.0 pass. So if 96% pass and they are assessed on their ability to employ multicultural practices in their instruction, why are 62% of teachers, new teachers, still unprepared to teach from a multicultural framework? And also, in addition, I explored the benefits of multiculturalism when instructing ELLs. It's obvious and abundant in the literature. It increases student engagement with the academic content, yet it is still ignored by districts. And is it ignored by districts because teachers don't come in to the district having that training already? Or is it due to a lack of professional development? And as I narrowed down my focus, I began to investigate if credential programs are preparing their candidates to teach their diverse students through a multicultural standpoint. So I started from the broad topic of teacher lack of preparation and narrowed it down to investigating how their credential programs are instilling these practices within their candidates, especially credential programs that are CalTPA 2.0 focused. In terms of my research questions, I asked, to what extent do teacher candidates who successfully pass the CalTPA 2.0 employ multicultural practices while instructing their ELL students? If interviewed, would educators who graduated from California teacher preparation programs, which I shortened to TPPs, and successfully completed the CalTPA 2.0 show different results from what has previously been recorded in the literature regarding their confidence of instructing ELLs through a multicultural lens? Again, the literature has a gap after the year 2016, so a lot of the literature explores how teachers fail to teach from a multicultural perspective, but as California credential programs reinvigorated their curriculum to incorporate more multicultural courses, I wanted to look at how that modern trend and those patterns affects teachers' levels of preparation now. Additionally, how are California teacher preparation programs geared towards completing the CalTPA, educating their candidates to be culturally competent educators in the field of ELL instruction? And finally, to what extent do educators who have graduated from teacher preparation programs in California from the year 2018 on feel prepared to instruct English language learners through a multicultural lens? This is especially significant considering that the CalTPA 2.0 that a lot of us took, that I took myself, was adopted in the year 2018. So it is still fairly recent. There isn't a lot of research in the field on this implementation of CalTPA 2.0, and therefore I thought it was extremely necessary to investigate how it is fostering multicultural practices within current teacher candidates. Chapter 2 concerned my literature review. So one of the first topics that I looked at within the literature was the relationship between culture and communication. So multiculturalism is essential within any classroom, but especially the English language learner classroom, because there is an explicit correlation between culture and communication. Without tapping into our students' cultures, without reflecting it within the academic content, the communication, aka our instruction and our teaching, is lost. So there's going to be an information gap there already. So without being trained how to do so, a lot of teachers are failing to engage their English language learners. In addition, district's passivity plays a large role in the lack of teacher preparation and the prevalent achievement gap that we see through English language learners. Districts are aware of that teachers are unprepared. They're aware of the research in the field that reveals the benefits of multiculturalism, yet they are failing to offer professional development on the subject for their educators. And that was something that made me start to narrow down on what is the source of that. In terms of opportunity gap and limited access, the literature revealed that because teachers are unable to tap into the cultural backgrounds of their English language learners, there is a prevalent opportunity gap and there's limited access to academic content. As previously stated, culture and communication are key in engaging English language learners with the academic content. And if we fail to do so, if we as educators fail to do that, then there's going to be an opportunity gap and a limited access to that academic curriculum. In addition, there are prevalent myths and misconceptions that are explored within the literature. A lot of teachers have preconceived ideas regarding English language learners' propensity to learn and succeed academically, and they carry these misconceptions from their credential programs into their careers. And of course, lack of teacher training, that was something that I looked at in the literature as well, which was extremely prevalent. Again, 62% of new teachers say that they are unprepared to teach English language learners from a multicultural perspective. And a lot of these sources through the literature came from surveys, observations, testimonials, quantitative data, college websites, and the California Teachers Commission. And obviously peer-reviewed journals and published texts. So I explored a lot of that, and that helped me narrow down my research topic in terms of looking at the consequences before beginning to examine what was the source of these consequences. And from there, I was able to move to current trends in teacher preparation programs. And this became the main focus of my study. So what I've discovered is that future educators are not adequately prepared to instruct ELLs through a multicultural lens. And again, it wasn't necessarily a personal discovery. This was something that I garnered from reviewing the literature. A lot of credential programs put an emphasis on the California teaching expectations, which are great, but they do not explicitly ask candidates to tie multicultural practices within their instruction, despite the fact that there is prevalent research in the field that supports the need for multicultural practices. In addition, in terms of current trends in teacher preparation programs, the literature revealed that a lack of pre-service preparedness in teacher credential programs. According to Santibanez and Gandara, over 70% of novice teachers felt that their teacher preparation program did not adequately prepare them to modify instruction for English language learners or organize their instruction to reflect the cultural diversity of their English language students. And interestingly, a lot of the programs that do boast or claim to boast a multicultural curriculum for their credential programs show an actual shallow multicultural curriculum when they're actually observed. And this was a study done by Asaf et al., in which at a California university, they observed how candidates at the end of their program were planning for English language learners in terms of scaffolding content and representing their culture within their instruction, and found that the instruction and the planning occurred at the micro level. It didn't really come to fruition because teachers felt that they were not prepared to do so. They didn't have the training to do so. And from there, and that was probably one of the more prominent studies that I looked at that allowed me to narrow my focus into examining just how current California teacher preparation programs are instructing their candidates to teach from multicultural practice. If there is a lack of preparedness, is it the credential program that is failing to convey these strategies to their candidates, or is it the candidates themselves? So in terms of methodology, this study is employing a mixed method approach. So we'll be using both quantitative and qualitative data to compare the results, interpret the results, and integrate them into the research in order to answer the research questions aforementioned. In terms of participants and setting, the participants for this study will consist of secondary teacher candidates enrolled at a California university located in San Diego County. And the reason why this university will remain unnamed, obviously to protect those who participate in the study, but it was chosen because this university claims to heavily incorporate multiculturalism in the curriculum of its teacher preparation program. The candidates enrolled in this program not only are required to complete the CalTPA 2.0, but they are required to complete classes on cultural responsiveness, social justice, and student diversity. And for that reason, this would be a perfect setting to answer the research questions of how this curriculum and the implementation of the CalTPA 2.0 is successfully preparing teacher candidates to teach from a multicultural lens. In terms of timeline, 1 full academic year from August to June with the same cohort. The credential program at the selected university is a year long, and the methodology will occur throughout the program. So at the beginning of the program, in terms of qualitative data, candidates will be interviewed regarding their levels of preparedness, their preconceived ideas of English language learners' propensity to learn, and their opinions on the effectiveness of the curriculum that they're learning. And these interviews will occur at the beginning, at the middle of their credential program, and after cycle 1 of the CalTPA 2.0, and at the end of their credential program after completion of cycle 2.02. In terms of quantitative data, I will be using Likert scale surveys to, I will be using Likert scale surveys to determine teachers' levels of preparedness to teach English language learners from a multicultural perspective. And these surveys will occur at the end of every month. So candidates, again, they will remain anonymous, but they will complete these surveys in order for researchers to get an idea of the trends and the patterns within the credential program itself in terms of how candidates are responding to the multicultural curriculum and how successful they view that curriculum within their own studies. As previously stated, the interviews will be conducted at the end of each cycle. And lastly, the outside observations. These will be conducted by the researchers themselves, and they will be taking field notes and observing the implementation of the curriculum within these classes, the actions of candidates within these classes, the projects they produce, and just basically measuring the depth and the effectiveness of the curriculum used within these programs, especially since these programs stress the completion of CalTPA 2.0, and therefore their curriculum is narrowed towards that goal. In terms of the significance of the study, studies focus on educators who graduated from their preparation program before the year 2016, and the research in the field is lacking in terms of how current teacher preparation programs are employing multiculturalism in their curriculum. So this study is significant in that it will contribute to closing the literature gap in terms of how current preparation programs are using multicultural practices with their teacher candidates. It also aims to identify any correlations between the successful completion of the CalTPA 2.0 and candidates' levels of preparedness to instruct English language learners from a multicultural perspective. Does the CalTPA 2.0 accurately assess candidates' multicultural knowledge? Do candidates actually need to employ multicultural practices to pass the CalTPA 2.0? And is the curriculum of these credential programs actually teaching multicultural practices to these candidates in terms of the CalTPA 2.0? And as I said before, the CalTPA 2.0 has not yet been investigated in the field. A lot of the research in the literature focuses on the EdTPA, which was implemented in the early 2010s. now that the Cal TPA 2.0 has responded to the shift in or the research in the field in terms of multiculturalism, I believe it is very important that a study such as this helps to contribute to the newfound knowledge and the newfound practices within California credential programs. And in terms of reflections, implications for further research, although this study focuses on a cohort of teachers, they're within their credential programs, and I think it would be very beneficial for this research to continue a year after the program to see how these teacher candidates who graduated from these programs are implementing multiculturalism within their own classrooms. If it hits a wall and it drops off and we don't see any practice of multiculturalism after graduation, or if the curriculum itself is effective to the point that we see multiculturalism carry on outside of the university walls. Implications for teaching and learning. The results of this study could be shared with other universities in terms of successful multicultural curriculum. As I said before, the research in the field shows that the depth of this curriculum varies from university to university. Some say that they are truly teaching multiculturalism when in fact they are teaching a very shallow and rudimentary version of it. So if this university is teaching successful practices, they can be shared with other universities, and they can also be shared with local school districts across the state about how they could implement these practices within professional development to make it so that 62% of teachers do not feel prepared, and instead make that number a lot less in terms of employing this within their professional development. And in terms of like reflecting back on it, I think that for my own personal research of it, I wish I was more patient with myself. At the beginning, I knew I wanted to work on lack of teacher preparation because that was something that was like a red flag in the literature, but I did not know how to narrow that focus. And it wasn't until the middle of ITI 662 that I realized I kind of wanted to focus that in on current preparation programs that are specifically geared towards the Cal TPA 2.0, especially because the Cal TPA requires candidates to employ multicultural practices. So, and then I was always curious as someone who took the test myself, whether or not that effectively was even measuring my own ability to employ multicultural practices, and if the effectiveness of the curriculum that I myself took will allow me to employ these multicultural practices within my own teaching. So thanks for watching.